Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jack the Lad podcast. On today's episode, we've got on Adam Metwally. He spent 10 days at a meditation course with no contact, talking, eye contact, or any outside noise at all. He is also an entrepreneur, engineer, and artist, and he's currently focusing on the music sector with events and tours and hospitality. And he just seems to live a fairly crazy life, to be honest. I came across him on Instagram, and that's why he's on the show. So everyone give him a warm welcome, Adam Metwally.
Well, hello. How's it going?
Yeah, really good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, man. Good. It's a nice Sunday evening. Walk the dog and cruising along. So
yeah, I mean, my day is just starting this side, but yeah. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Obviously, on the intro there, gave the sort of spiel, and I came across you on Instagram, and the actual sort of the post that I came across of yours was, as we mentioned before, was you DJing with a cat around your neck. And I thought, that's not something I've seen on Instagram before. So I thought I'd click on your reels, on your page, and then I come across obviously the Vipasana meditation course, and I was just like, this is that is basically the opposite to what I do for a living, because I sit and talk to people for sort of 40 minutes per episode. Some episodes have spanned over sort of three episodes, so sort of 2 hours worth of content. So yeah, it's just something that sort of fascinates me, because I can't sit still, and I like to look at people.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I'm the exact same as you. Like, I'm full of beans all the time, and I don't shut up. And then like extremely extroverted as well. So anyone that knows me kind of knows that this is a very like weird thing for me to do. But it was one of those things where I was like, well, if I can't sit quietly, like, that's a problem. And the course kept coming up, like a door opened. I read a book. I read a book by, what's his name? Bob Iger. It's one of the CEOs of Disney for the last 20 years or so. And he's got this book about his experience and his story, and how he went from like effectively the mailroom to CEO. And he writes in this book that his wife put him onto these Vipasana meditation courses. And this wasn't the first time I'd heard of it, but this was kind of the moment where I'm like, I have to do this. Because he was like, once I did them, it was one of the single most life-changing things I've done. And I do them every year now. And I thought to myself, shit, if this guy runs one of the biggest companies in the world, probably, gets up at 4:30 in the morning, has a huge amount of, responsibility on his shoulders, and he can find the time to spend 10 days doing this course, then I have no fucking excuse. So I did it.
So upon getting there, when I'm assuming people drive there, or they get there, and so you pull up, you park up the car. What's the first thing that happens? Do you check in like it says hotel, or how does that go?
Yeah, so it was like it's like a really beautiful mountainous area just outside of Melbourne. And there's like just a food and kind of dining hall, and you check in, everyone's still talking, you give away your phone and everything. And then you sign this document just with the tenants and the requirements, like the things that you won't do. You agree to be there for the 10 days, like you don't leave. If you leave before the 10 days, it's effectively like barring you from the opportunity to do it again. They won't let you back in again. Because they want people to take it very seriously, and they want people to, push through the difficulty that comes inherently with 10 days of this practice. And then they give you a bit of a greeting. We have like some dinner, which is all vegetarian. All the food's vegetarian. So because it's an Indian-based practice, and a lot of their food is vegetarian. And then you take these tenets, which are, I actually got the thing down. Where was it? I thought I'd read it to you, because here we go. So the 5 precepts: to abstain from killing any being, to abstain from stealing, to abstain from sexual misconduct, to abstain from wrong speech, and to abstain from all intoxicants. So basically you agree in the next 10 days that you don't do any of those things. Like you don't kill a bug, you're not going to eat meat for those 10 days. Like they don't care outside of it. But it's like, if you're going to do this, the idea is you're peeling back as many of the external layers as you possibly can to get to the fundamental truth of what you are. And what you are is effectively the sensations that you feel and nothing more. So that's the idea. So the reason why you don't have a phone, like they take your phone, you don't have any eye contact, there's no reading, there's no writing, there's no sexual activity, there's no touching, is because, no killing of any animals of any form, no lying. It's because the idea of it all is to basically, like, if you think of, let's just say you lie about something, you've created an alternate reality in your head that you then need to remember. And as you layer all those different things on, your mind gets more and more and more cluttered over time. So by agreeing to all these things and taking it seriously and doing the meditation very seriously, you end up slowly pulling them back and pulling them back and pulling them back and getting closer and closer to you as your internal being, that in the way of the Vipasana meditation is just your sensations. So there's no truth other than your sensations. No, because everything else that is out there in the world is kind of just like somebody else's perception of what they're experiencing. And you're kind of taking that story and you're creating a version of that in your head based on your experiences. So all of it's kind of just like a guess. Everyone's just guessing most of the time. And the closest thing to reality is just what you are feeling on a sensation basis with no narrative or story attached to it at that moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So how that's set up then, is it sort of a structured day by day? So day 1 is this, day 2 is that, day 3 is, the other, or is it taken sort of, well, saying that, being it 10 days, and I'm assuming because it's a cemented, it is 10 days. I'm assuming it is structured rather than it just being there. You're there until you achieve, a certain enlightenment, shall we say?
Yeah, no, it's 10 days of very structured work. So, you get in, you take the vow of silence, and then it's kind of like, that's day 0. That's not even day 1. Take the vow of silence, you go to bed. The guy who kind of put together these courses, his name's like Goenko, I can't remember his full name, but he's passed away. But so they've recorded him teaching the course in like the late 90s, and then you're watching the recordings, and then there's like a sub teacher there that kind of can guide you when you need help. So you take this vow of silence. The only time you're allowed to talk is one-on-one with the teacher in very specific settings. Like you might get a minute privately to talk about an issue that you have, and that's it.
Right.
Or like, you can talk to the management team and be like, oh, there's no toilet paper.
Yeah.
About that's it. And so yeah, then you.
What does day 1 look like then? So do you wear your own clothes? Are you in?
Yeah, you wear your own clothes.
You're right. Okay. And then is it? So day 1, was it? You said 4 o'clock starts.
Yeah. So you're up. So they ring this fucking bell at 4 a.m. It's like boom. It's just like.
Nice. That's the time I get up nearly every day, so I'd be all right with that.
That's not the time I get up on a regular basis. I mean, I love to, but working nights a lot, like DJing and like running events, I'm like all over the shop. So I just try and get sleep in when I can. So that routine is not really there as much. But yeah, it's got to be there when you're at the Vipassana. The routine's there. So you're up at 4, and then you've got half an hour to kind of get your shit in order. And then 4:30, there's a block of 2-hour meditation. Basically, you have the option of these two. So there's 2 sets of meditations for the day. There's where you have to be in the hall. Every single person needs to be in the hall as a group, and you're doing a group meditation. You can't leave the hall unless you've got a really serious reason to, for the hour that you're in that group meditation. And then there's a lot of other meditation time where it's up to you at your own time and at your own pace. You can do it in your bedroom if you want. You can go in the hole if you want to go in the hole. If you want to do half an hour, you can take a 5-minute break and walk out. It's kind of up to you. But the positioning of the teaching is that it's up to you to make the choice to put in the work. And if you put in the work, we guarantee that there will be results. If you don't put in the work, you can't expect shit. So they plant that in your head right at the start. So you kind of internally guilted into getting up at 4 a.m. and going to the fucking meditation hall and doing it. And you're like, well, I'm here. I may as well make the most of it. I may as well not waste everyone and myself's time by not taking this seriously. So the first 4:30 to 6:30 is just meditation on your own terms. 6:30 to 8 is breakfast and a break. So I began to figure out techniques to manage the difficulty of it. So I would do the meditation in the morning. If I was really tired, I would the first few days, because I also detoxed on caffeine. So I went hard caffeine detox as well, just leveling it up again.
Yeah.
Just why not, right? Even though it's been a month and a half and I haven't had a coffee since, so that's been really good. So I'm full off caffeine. It was getting to that point where I was having 2-3 a day, and it's I need to scale back. So you had an opportunity to do that, but day 1, 2, 3 were kind of hell because of that.
Yeah, they sound it.
And I'd landed from New York City at 6 a.m. the day before, had to sort a bunch of shit out because I've been away for nearly 4 months. Then I woke up the next morning and I'm driving to this conference and I'm off again for another 10 days. So I was kind of jet lagged, caffeine detoxed, going straight into this thing.
Yeah, mounting it up on top of each other. Yeah, making the start. Putting yourself behind the goalpost big time. So what doing that? What did you find the hardest throughout them 10 days? Was it the lack of phone, the lack of talking or reading? Obviously, you said before we came on that you've read a lot and you're well versed in in books. What was your sort of standout thing that you were like, oh, I can't wait, for them? Or was there? Or were you actually, this is quite nice?
Yeah, no, it was very hard. I'll go back and I'll finish explaining what the day looks like, and then I'll explain the next step of the difficulties. So you've got 4:30 to 6:30 is group meditation in the hall or in your room. 6:30 to 8 breakfast and a break. So I'd smash my breakfast and go have a nap. 8 till 9 is meditation in the hall where you can't leave. Everyone has to be there and you can't leave. 9 till 11 is again meditation on your own terms. 11 till 1 is lunch and a break. So again, I'd smash food and I'd go sleep. And then 1 till 2:30 is meditation on your own terms. 2:30 till 3:30 is group meditation in the hall. You have to be there. 3:30 till 5, meditation on your own terms. 5 till 6 is a break. There's no dinner. No one gets fed dinner. The new students get 2 pieces of fruit and the old students get lemon water. And the idea of that is this is an approach to eating where you should go to bed on an empty stomach. And if you're too full, you can't actually meditate. So, and I didn't mind it. I felt quite good about it after a while. I just was I really like eating dinner, and it was kind of just depressing. just on a boredom perspective, but not but I didn't mind the concept itself.
Yeah.
So 6 till 7 is the group meditation in the hall, forced meditation, you can't leave again. 7 till 8:15 or 8:30 is 8:15, I think it was, is a discourse where there's a video of the guy He's talking about maybe what you might have experienced on the day, what you can expect tomorrow. He like would make jokes. He'd tell a lot of old stories, and just like it was quite entertaining, and had a good bit of wisdom in it. And then say 8:15 to 9 is a group meditation in the hall, and then you finish at 9, and it's lights out at 9:30, and then you're back up at 4. So the hardest thing, I mean, overall, no phone was okay. Like none of, just you were so busy meditating. Like it's 10 hours a day of meditating. You're not really like, I was like sleeping and meditating and going to the bathroom. And that was kind of it. I'd go for a few walks. I'd like roll my back out with like a massager because I was in so much pain. But probably the sitting still, like on my lower back, just crushed me. And I had to because my back's quite weak and I've been working on it, but it wasn't at a point where I could just like handle everything. Day one was really hard. Day 2 was pretty hard. Day 3, I was like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. This is getting better. And then day 4, they like switched it up. Because the first 3 days you were focusing on your breath, on like the area between your nostrils and like your upper lip. And the idea was you want to focus on a very small part, because stage 2 was where you began the actual Vipasana meditation. And the Vipasana meditation itself is observing sensations from top to bottom in your body. And something really weird began to happen. I began to feel, I've never felt it before, and it's like unlocked something that I like can't get away from now. I began to feel like subtle vibrations in my like body. So like by like day 6, day 7, I would go into the meditation, I'd be 10 minutes in, and my whole body's just buzzing. It's right. It feels like I'm in a fucking microwave or something. I'm just like to the point where I'm lying in bed at the end of the night on like my last night, and I'm just lying there and I'm just like, I can't sleep because my body's fucking buzzing because of how like sensitive the meditation and the sitting and the like removal of all the external inputs has made me to like the internal feelings of my body. Wild. It's wild. I've never experienced it before. But that began on day 4, right? And on day 4, they switched up the 3 1-hour meditations where you had to be in the hall. And they called it this thing, the sitting of strong determination, which meant set your position, set your leg positions, set your arm position, close your eyes and don't move for an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I do a sort of, it's a bit of, well, it's not the same and it's definitely not for 10 days. I do it when I'm in the sauna. I do quite long sort of sauna sessions because I've recently started doing triathlons. So I was trying to sort of work on my mental toughness. So when I go in the sauna, I do half-hour stints in the sauna, which is brutal.
Yeah, I've done
especially
that.
the second half. But I'm the same. I sit in a position, and then I just sort of, I rest my hands on my arms, my hands on my legs, and then I just sit and try and hold. Because I've noticed that if I'm not concentrating, my head will just naturally like slouch forward. So I try and sit like as straight up as I can, and I keep like looking at something in front of me. Then I close my eyes, sit there for sort of as long as I can, and then I'll sort of catch myself, or like my head's dipped a bit, so I open my eyes to see where my eye line is. Yeah. So I sit back up straight. But other than that sort of slight movement, I'll sit there for pretty much that half an hour, completely still. I get out, have a cold shower for 5 minutes, have 5 minutes sat sort of cooling down and recouping, and then I go back in for another half hour. And it's that last sort of 10 minutes of that half an hour. Sometimes there'll be people in there. I'm not ignorant, do you know what I mean? If there is people in there that first half an hour, I'll chat to them and whatever. But if some people come in within especially the last sort of 15 minutes of that second half an hour, if they start talking to me, I'll say, look, I'm like 45, 50 minutes into my sort of sauna sessions now. Like, if I don't talk to you over the next sort of 10 minutes, it's not I'm being rude. I'm just in a place of where it's hurting and I'm just trying to concentrate on not dying, obviously, but like it's I'm in my own head and I'm elsewhere because it's fucking brutal. But yeah, so that's sort of that's what I do, and I've took some people in there and they've sort of tried it, and the first half an hour they're good. They get 10 minutes in, they're like, oh fuck, this is too hot, because I have it whacked like right up as well. But yeah, and so that's my sort of version, I suppose, of some form of meditation, I suppose, because it is brutal, and obviously it's I put it on myself. I put myself in that situation, and and I just tough it out, and it doesn't matter even how I feel. Sometimes I go in there and I'm like, really, can't be arsed doing this, but I it's what I do. So I'm like, it doesn't matter how I feel. It's just that it's happening. So suck it up, buttercup, and get on with it. So yeah, there is sometimes when I get out of that first half an hour and I'm looking at my watch, I'm like, I could go. Like, I've got a reason. I could leave, and then I'm just like, stop being a pussy. Just get on with it. But yeah, that's fascinating. So you're on day 4 then, and obviously they've changed it up. And then how is that then? So from day 4 to day 10, is that the sort of then the set schedule, or does it change up again?
Yeah, that's it pretty much. So you do the same thing every day, but it got to this point where those 3 1-hour sessions, like my back's already cooked at this point, and then they're like, oh yeah, you're not moving now, and I'm like, fuck, this is like gnarly. There was probably one of the harder things I've done. Like, I've run a marathon before. Like, I've worked in business. I've done a few like difficult things in my life, but that was gnarly. Like, but in a weird way, it was like also empowering, because I was in so much pain already. And then when you're like trying to not move, I probably got maybe 70% of them. I did maybe 70% of them where I didn't move. Like, a few of them, I was like just not in the right headspace and shuffling around, and but then, and like I would dip as well. Like, I would be doing that, and then I'd like slowly kind of come back up, but that's it. There was a point where I was like assessing my options, right, with the pain, and I'm like, well, this is not going away. What do I do? And I was like, maybe I just like dissect it, like what I'm feeling. And I just began to like my shoulder and my like lower back. And I just began to like, on a very, very, very deep cellular level, it sounds wacky, but like at the point you are at in this, like, you're getting very sensitive, and you can kind of feel very sensitive pieces of your body. I like just dug into the pain, just like I just sat with it. And then at some point, a couple of times, it didn't happen all the time because it was kind of chronic, the pain would just like disperse, and I would go so deeply into my body that I like lost the understanding of like the feeling of like my body itself kind of dissolved. Like, it was fucking weird.
Yeah. I think there's a lot they say about that, obviously, like leaning into the pain and stuff like that is sort of best. And if you're but did it ease at all over them 10 days?
By day like 8 or 9, my lower back was starting to improve. And I've noticed, when I do yoga now and when I do my like workouts, I've noticed an improvement in that part of my body. And it's consistent work. Like, I'm doing rehab for it. I'm like working on getting it to a level of strength that it needs to be to not cause the pain. But it definitely did help. But it was more so my relationship to it than specifically just the pain itself. Like, the pain was there, but it was as though the moment I accepted it fully and was like, well, this is a part of me now, it like the pain just became more of a sensation. It was a combination of sensations in your body that tied into what's the word I'm looking for? Tied into a narrative that I've then created in my mind. The story becomes pain.
Yeah.
Does that kind of
yeah? No, it does.
connect?
It makes sense. But I think as well what you're saying with the where you've gone into your own body and that sort of pain has dissolved, or you've dissolved as yourself. I think it is that it's your brain trying to keep itself busy with something else. And when you said about how you've sort of dissecting the pain in your lower back and all the rest of it, I think everyone goes through that to some extent. Maybe not in everyday life, and some people do have pretty easy lives, and I think for the most part, people try to sort of find things to get to get angry about or cause themselves some kind of emotional anxiety and pain when, really most people live a pretty comfortable life, especially in Western society. We're not, there is poverty to an extent, but again, there's a lot of time. I think people have too much time in their hands sometimes, because people moan about some things that I think I had never even thought about that until you just mentioned it. But you're like, like there's a thing in the minute in Wales, the obviously Queen's passed away, so now King Charles has gone to Wales, and there was some people they're against the monarchy, so they're going to go there and silently protest. Well, to me, that's just standing in a crowd. So that there's no, I don't know. It doesn't symbolise anything for me. Just sort of standing there in a crowd, not cheering, isn't the same as holding up, signs or whatever saying, no to the monarchy, all that sort of stuff. Like making more of a show is, and we live, in England. It's free speech, and they protest. Like people can protest and all that. That's like they're not going to get jailed for it unless obviously it gets violent. But yeah, I don't know. I just that was a bit lost on me, to be honest. I don't really understand the sort of, we're going to stand in the crowd, so we're bulking it out, making it look like there's, thousands and thousands more in attendance, or however many there is of these, these silent protesters, and they're just stood there not cheering. It just seems.
Did it happen?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. There was like a few of them. Obviously, there was one lad that shouted at Prince Andrew, and he's been charged for something. But again, it's sort of that's just. I think that's more of a situational thing. I think he went in about obviously him being paedophile and that, and. Yeah, and he got pinched and fingered but that I think is obviously because it's not an appropriate thing to be sort of talking about when he's, his mum's just died. Even though he is, in my opinion, and a lot of people's, absolute scum of the earth. But
it's a world that I don't really understand. We're so far out of it in Australia. We just pay our tithes to the monarchy and move on with our days.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I served in the military, but I'm not. It didn't affect my day or this week at all. The only thing it meant was I wasn't allowed to play football on that Saturday. Like all sports were like shit canned. So I think I ended up spending the day with the kids, which I wouldn't have had them anyway. So that was pretty good, obviously for me personally. But it's when there's sort of the people that have had no interaction with her in any way, shape, or form, and they're like, "Oh, I love the royal family, I love the Queen," and I'm like, she doesn't even know you existed. She literally didn't know you existed. You're just one of millions of people. So how you can have that connection with someone that doesn't even know you exist is just beyond me. And again, I think people have got too much time to spend loving people that they don't know. Like I'm so busy doing stuff now that I just don't have time to waste time on stuff that's not going to sort of advance me or have a positive effect on my mental health as well as my physical surroundings.
I think we all need to have like someone to look up to though, and maybe the Queen for some people might have been that person to look up to. So
see, and that there's a part of me, I agree with that to an extent, but I always think that there should be someone sort of more close to home that you should look up to with realistic expectations. As she was born into that role, and obviously she could have advocated it, but
but what if you have nobody? What if you're just like alone in the world? Like I push back on that because I have learned more from people I've never met in my life, and many that are dead, than I have from the people closely intimate to me. So
if they were to pass away, or they had once you'd sort of learned about them, would it affect your life for a sort of extended period of time?
What do you mean?
Like, so there's people like there's some people, obviously the country's in mourning and have been in mourning for the last 10 days. There is people that are obviously, they've been wailing, crying and stuff, and there's some people that are like real royalists that are like, this has really affected them, the Queen dying, even though she's 96 years old, which is way over the expected average for a female in the UK. It's like 20 years over. So and I just think there is there's an end date to everyone. So I don't know. I don't put too much weight into sort of famous people or royalty and stuff like that, because for her, she was born into that position. There's no way I can be the king ever, because it's.
Hey mate,
Yeah.
you are you're blocking yourself out already. You never
Put myself
you
out the
anything
running.
to put your mind to.
No. But I don't know. I've just always been sort of. But again, it's the same. I understand what you're saying about if you've got no one, and I've always had a very supportive family. I've had, mum and dad have been in my life all of my life, and I'm very lucky to have that. And I understand that I am very sort of privileged in that aspect. That I've always had, caring people around me that have always, gave me the guidance that I've required, and pointed me in the right direction. But I just think that having, I don't know, just stuff that affects people for so long, and they can take that much time out of their life to sort of get affected by it. I just, for some reason, I mean, maybe the Queen was a bad example, but it's just, that's the sort of, the most recent major incident. But it's, I mean, there's a lot of things that sort of, I miss out on a lot of stuff as well, because I don't really pay much attention to the news. So I get my information from sort of family pretty much. But then if there is something that I am interested in that's come up, then I'll go back and forth with my stepmom, especially, because we're usually on the opposite sides of the fence with whatever it is. So we have a good, we have a good debate. Neither of us come out of it sort of swayed the other way. I think sometimes we have done. We've, chatted through, and one of us has gone, actually, I understand what you're saying. But yeah, I think both of our points are well thought out, and they come from, some sort of logic. But I suppose it's just, how we both sort of see the world.
Well, that's the key thing to probably dig into there with the comment about like people really taking it very heavily is, I guess you just haven't had the impact that this person's had on them for whatever reason that's led them to that moment. Like I'm the same. I'm like, oh shit, okay, that sucks, but it's not something that I'll continue to stress about. And it's probably not a bad point to kind of to note that we all have such fundamentally different experiences of the world, and they can shape into like fundamentally different things that we need and things that we think are truth. And I guess tying back into the the meditation thing, but all we really know is truth is the sensations that we feel without attachment or a narrative to them. And I think you can take that understanding and realize that a lot of this stuff, a lot of the emotion that you feel might be unnecessarily felt. And the more you can detach from using techniques like maybe, the sauna and this and other things, you begin to just level off. And as you level off, you're like, you don't have these crazy highs and you don't have these crazy lows. And I think overall you just live a happier and better life. So
I think being in control of your emotions. I was actually talking about one of the lads about it yesterday, because he's football mad and he supports Arsenal. And he was saying years ago it would affect his mood. If Arsenal lost a game, it would affect him for that whole day. He'd be in a foul mood. His wife, if Arsenal lose, she won't talk to him. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, you're letting something that you have absolutely no control over affect your whole day, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I was like, that is crazy. And he's like, you're not into football. I said, I love playing it. Like, I absolutely love playing football. I said, but to watch it, I said, there's a million things I'd rather do.
Yeah. Maybe you're the difference. You're the go-getter. You're the person making the podcast. Like, you're not the one watching it as much. Like, you're putting it out in the world, so you don't have the time and space to consume as much. So you don't get caught up as much in the bullshit. And the dramas and the stories, because you are too busy. And that's a good space to be in. I think the ideal space to be in is to be comfortable not being busy, but then also not getting caught up in the bullshit. So just having your life set up so that you don't feel the need to be on the treadmill, but then at the same time, with that free time, you don't end up just like incessantly getting caught up in drama. You use that space to think. You use that space to reflect. You use that space to be present with the people you love. I think that's the sweet spot. And that's what I've really tried to put into my life as much as I can, just like getting to that sweet spot, never being too, like, I do feel that being busy for the sake of busy is a trap. And it's a trap that a lot of us like fall into very easily. But I mean, you also got to hustle and you got to grind and you got to make shit happen and you got to put the work in. But sometimes you got to reflect and be like, fuck, what's all this for? And if you don't have a good answer,
then why are you doing it?
Then why are you doing it?
Yeah, I have that most Sundays. This is my Sunday without my kids, and this Sunday is usually I block this out and I don't do anything. This is like my one day where I just sit. I will still edit podcasts. I'm not going to lie to you, but yeah, and it's sort of my day. I'll catch up on a few films if someone's recommended me or anything like that, and I'll get stuff done sort of outside of what I normally do. But yeah, the other sort of 13 days out of them 2 weeks, it is pretty much sort of hell for leather. So, well, thank you very much for coming on today, Adam. Have you got any sort of final thoughts before we shoot?
No, I just well, I say no and then I start talking, but
most people do.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, given we didn't really get into much else other than the specifics of the meditation course, after experiencing that, I'm going to work towards doing it once a year. And I think that everybody should give this a whirl. Like it's hard, but in the really difficult things come really great outcomes. And anyone that says, oh no, I've got ADHD or whatever, get in my brain and you'll understand that I'm probably not much different to anybody else. But it's all achievable. It's all doable. And I think from my personal experience, my world is fundamentally shifting because of this experience. Like, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but you know, that little idea of you hit a golf club, you know, you hit a golf ball, you know, that much different. And in a long time, you know, over the distance, it goes in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
These little actions do those things over time and make a better life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm terrible at golf, by the way.
Same.
Right, well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today, Adam. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and learning about the your meditation course. I'm not going to try and butcher it again.
Go one more time.
Vipasana?
Yes, let's fucking go.
We got it. We're in. Only took 40 minutes. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Everyone, thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe, send it to your friends, comment, all the rest of it. And thank you very much for listening to Jack the Lad podcast. See you later, guys.